Now, getting into the mascot of hip hop, the GOAT of this rap game, and the epitome of what success looks like in the music industry. Now, of course, before you say I'm doing tricks, right? You got to stay with me because, of course, Drizzy Drake Graham, also known as Aubrey Graham, said diss track sounding like some fan mail. And not only, he didn't stop at that, right? He also said, your right-hand man grew a rat tail. Now, I cover hip-hop for a living, right? And there's one thing that's associated with rat in the hip-hop community, and that's basically snitching, right? That's telling on another man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to give you a little tidbit right quick. You know, I've covered Drake literally pulling one of the most blasphemous moves in hip-hop history as far as suing UMG for defamation, mind you, over Kendrick Lamar feud. So whenever I come back to this leaked track that's set to come out soon, because of course UMG is consistently beefing with this man Aubrey because he set the whole precedent for how to lose a rap battle and becoming the first rapper ever to sue over a rap battle for defamation. Ladies and gentlemen,
sounds like, damn, look at the state of hip hop. Like, what's going on?
So going back to this track, right? All that preparation and the plan failed. Your right-hand man grew a rat tail.
But then, you know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, look at the state of hip hop. Like, what's going on?
Who is Drake talking to? Does he not know that we know, that he know that we know, that we know that he know that we know what he did? Because this is undisputable, right? You sued your label for defamation over a track that lost you the rap battle. I don't know what world I'm living on, but on Earth 616, for my comic book fans out there, the main universe, essentially, we are forever going to know as Drake to be the first hip-hop rapper ever to sue another rapper because he beat him in a rap battle. Now, of course, with that out the way, y'all already know that Drake's my favorite artist, but I have to keep it 8 more than 92 because this is the Notorious Mass Effect. We get into the entire music industry. Now, the reason I'm covering Drake for right now is because he dropped this track titled Waiting to Exhale. Why is that a big deal? Because guess what? I was waiting to exhale after he said those bars, because the things that Kenny is going to say to this man if he ever drops this track officially is going to be more than the depths of hell. Now, with that being said, Waiting to Exhale is not out on DSPs. Why? Because Drake's camp leaked it, allegedly. Now, I have to say allegedly because I don't know that as a fact. All I know is they are experimenting as far as seeing what track works, what track doesn't. But UMG is going for none of that. If you're going to sue us for payola and defamation over a rap battle that you agreed to join, guess what? We're going to take down and copyright every single track, even though it's not out officially. So when it says this media has been disabled in response to a report by the copyright owner, just know that's not Drake. Drake is doing this on purpose, allegedly. His camp is putting this out to gain feedback and do market research on what track works. So Waiting to Exhale is one of them, the track I'm currently covering. Cheerios is the next track we're about to get into. And then, of course, there's another track titled Bal Harbor. Now, these are allegedly linked to For All the Dogs, right? This is essentially what's supposed to be on For All the Dogs. And it makes sense as far as the bars, right? All I gotta say is, if he's gonna ever officially release this track, Waiting to Exhale, you may have to change a couple of these, right? And I'm not talking about Quentin Miller. I'm talking about actually going in and changing these specific verses that's talking about this track sounding like some fan mail, all that preparation and the plan failed. Your right hand man grew a rat tail. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
sounds like, damn, look at the state of hip hop. Like, what's going on?
There's only so many times as a Drake fan I could listen to him lie to me and then not be offended, right? Like, I don't know who he's talking to. Maybe he's talking to the pop fans that don't follow hip hop, and maybe they would assume that he's talking about some other artist. But in all actuality, hindsight is 2020. This man was talking about himself the whole time. Anyways, that being said, let's get into the GOAT of hip hop, because I do have praise for Drake. I don't want y'all to think this is a dunking on Drake session, because this is my favorite artist ever in life, right? Nokia is the third most popular track in the world. I think it was competing for that #1 spot. I don't know if he officially ever attained it. I know he put out a music video for it. I don't want to get into the full landscape of Drake right now, because I still have 2 other leaked tracks to get into. But essentially, I just wanted to let y'all know that Drake has a track out titled Waiting to Exhale. Now, of course, you may have to go to the alleged sites to listen to this track, or just go to Twitter and type it in and find one of the many posts that haven't been taken down by UMG as far as a particular track, and listen to it for yourself. But I think the track is fire, and ultimately, I just think he needs to change those lines, and he'll be fine. But these leaks that I've been hearing from Drake's camp allegedly is straight heat. And with that being said, let's get into the next leak track, which is Cheerios. Now, getting into the leak track Cheerios, I just want y'all to know that as far as allegedly leaking your own tracks and then your label taking it down because you're suing them for payola and defamation, this is beyond comedy. But of course, the actual track on a subjective level, I think is fire, as this man's chorus, as far as Gucci let it blam, then he passed it to his man, got a batting glove on, he don't hold it in his hand. And then he went on to describe how some criminal acts may or may not go the way you think it would, as far as them covering their tracks. Now, he said then he throw it out the window and just leave it where it land, or he throw it in the water, make him dig it out the sand. Hey, scratched off the cereal, we call that, this is a PG podcast, so we're just going to say we call that stuff a Cheerio. And then they take their clothes off and bleaching that material. Now, what in the Charlemagne type beat is this? Now, let me tell y'all something. As far as the GOAT of hip hop, the mascot of hip hop, and the ultimate epitome of what success looks like in the music industry, as if you don't know, Drake made history, right? I forget what it was as far as, let me see if I can find this. Because, you know, Drake breaks Billboard records all the time. So Drake actually set the record after Nokia, because I believe he officially set a new record for the most cumulative weeks on Billboard 200 charts. And guess who he surpassed? The Beatles. It's almost like he rapped about this on a track with Meek Mill, the same rapper that he put in a coffin and took him out like he was Jesus, right? So this man acting like the Messiah himself, bringing rappers back from the dead, and the sentiments that he said as far as having more slaps than the Beatles, and then officially being stated that he has more cumulative weeks on the Billboard 200 chart, surpassing the Beatles. I mean, come on.
Damn, look at the state of hip hop. Like, what's going on?
This man is the ultimate GOAT, and nobody can mess with him on the objective scale when it comes to analytics. Now, of course, now we got to get to the leak tracks. So UMG's not playing around. Drake and UMG is continuing their beef that started in 2023 as far as the deluxe edition for All the Dogs having the red button track on it, right? And then coinciding with Future and Metro putting out some of the most hated material as far as the amount of hatred you could build up from one man and putting it into a project. Future and Metro embodied that by putting out We Don't Trust You. And guess what? They doubled back, spun the block twice, but they were somewhat apart. And they titled it We Still Don't Trust You, right? How all the Drake's greatest ops on there, like they was building the hip hop Sinister Six, ASAP Rocky, Rick Ross, The Weeknd, Kendrick, Future, Metro. I mean, they probably have even more people on the album. I mean, Pharrell put out a track for Despicable Me where he was taking shots at Drake. These people do not like that Canadian. Now I wonder why. So anyways, with that being said, the leak track Cheerios, besides the chorus, is very ominous as far as the vibe that he's going for. It reminds me of the track where he had the ski mask on the album. I forget what that. I think he called it a playlist. I want to say it was More Life. No, it was Dark Lane's demo tape. It reminds me of that type of vibe as far as the ominous feel and how he's trying to embody a gangster, letting you know the routine of how they would or would not go about doing certain criminal acts. That's all I'm going to say, because, you know, I'm not the police, right? So basically, I like this track, right? He's talking about a lot of things in the track that is going on with Thug, and he even name drops Gunna, which is interesting because this leads me to believe that these are actually old tracks, because Waiting to Exhale had a track about planning all that just for the diss track to fail, which, you know, in hindsight makes sense, but now in today's age, in 2025, makes no sense coming from Drake, right? But then he has another track talking about how shoulda been in there with Thug in them, or be in there with Gunna in them, right? Essentially name dropping Gunna after he name dropped Thugger, which leads me to believe this is an older leak track, because why would he name drop Gunna when Young Thug completely hates that man, right? Makes sense as if it was recorded back when he was making For All the Dogs, which is what these leaks are reported to come from as far as the For All the Dogs era. It makes sense as Gunna back then did not tell on Young Thug, and so he would name drop Gunna as far as alongside Thug, right? Nowadays, if he name drops Gunna, is 100% going to be a diss after or before that Gunna name drop. Nowadays, Gunna is not seen in the greatest light as far as Young Thug and his case. Let's just put it like that. Let's just say Gunna may or may not have been on 4K saying yes ma'am to YSL being a gang. So anyways, Cheerios I think is a phenomenal track. A lot of people don't like when Drake talks gangster in his lyrics, and it makes sense because what Drake embodies as far as at this point is more of a hip hop Karen. Like, why not rap about the amount of petitions you could put on a rapper if they beat you in a rap battle, right? Why not rap about, oh, if you expose me for having a child, I'm just gonna go on LeBron's shop and cry to him and say, and have LeBron tell me like, what'd I tell you? And then him, stutter as he tells LeBron that I can never let you down, or I fear of letting you down, right? Why not rap about that? That's very introspective into your actual life and your feelings towards the universe, right? So whenever he gets into these gangster-like bars, I'm like, hold up, am I listening to NBA Youngboy? But then you realize it's Drake, the hip-hop Karen. So in all actuality, this is my favorite artist of all time. This is how you already know that I keep it 8 more than 92 on the podcast, because everybody deserves the same amount of critique and praise. You see how I said that he's the epitome of what success looks like in the music industry, and I also said that he's the hip-hop Karen. Two things could be true. But of course, the Kendrick side is going to run with one thing, and then the Drake side is going to run with the other. But obviously, if you're a nuanced listener, you already know that I try to keep it balanced and try to let you know what's going on in the totality in the music industry. But as far as Drake track Cheerios, the chorus is probably my favorite. He did have 21 Savage on the leaked track of Waiting to Exhale. I thought 21 Savage could have been on a Cheerios track and it would have made more sense. But I don't know. He decided to have him on Waiting to Exhale. But anyways, if you try to post this, if you try to look for it, if it hasn't been taken down by UMG, because UMG is not playing around with Drake, if you do end up being able to find a track, I would, the way I found it was going on Twitter and finding like one of the few posts that wasn't taken down by UMG and listening to the track. But ultimately, I would just probably go to SoundCloud or Spinrilla or something like that. I know that's a throwback for some people, and try to find a track. But anyways, so with that being said, he dropped 3 leaked tracks: Waiting to Exhale, Cheerios, and then the last one we're about to get into right now that is titled Bal Harbor. Now, getting into the last track as far as the leak pack of Drake's camp, allegedly Drake's camp, right? UMG's not playing around and is taking down any and everything related to these leaked tracks. So I would not try, and I would not advise you to post these tracks, because guess what? UMG is coming for the fettuccine. They are tired of the premier acts dropping tracks exclusively on social media only to not put it out on DSPs, right? Because now you're going around the contract in a way that you can't do if you're suing them for payola and defamation. Not only are you suing us after losing the rap battle, but now you want to put out leaked tracks. So he's just playing in their face. With that being said, obviously we're talking about the GOAT, the mascot of hip hop, aka Aubrey Dre Graham. Now, I've already covered Waiting to Exhale. I got into Cheerios. Now let's get into the social media phenomenon that is Shopping Spree, aka Bal Harbor. Now, of course, the reason why it has both of those titles is because he basically says Bal Harbor Shopping Spree. So they put both titles in the track title. They put Shopping Spree and then in parentheses Bal Harbor. But if you look up Shopping Spree, it'll be easier to find on SoundCloud, allegedly, or Twitter. I ain't trying to make the block hot. But let's just say this track is either going to see the light of day on DSPs or is never going to see the light of day in general, because UMG's not playing around with these so-called leaked tracks from Drake. Now, it seems more of a reference track than anything, because he keeps saying real. Well, this is a PG podcast, so let's just say he's saying real stuff, right? So he keeps repeating that. I think he's trying to get the melody down. But the one thing that he did get down is the theme of this track. And what he says is very interesting. He says, sleeping in the Pistons locker room. I'm on another mission. Cade Cunningham left his Crocs. Yeah, what is that? Oh, is that the sound effect? Okay. I was like, what? And when it plays out in the lyrics, it looks super weird. Anyways, he does the sound effects, and then he says, it's a PG podcast, so I'm just going to say he had a love-making session in him, right? So, first off, letting the world know that not only you were sleeping in the Pistons locker room, but besides that fact, why does nobody talk about him sleeping in the Pistons locker room? If there's one franchise that you do not want to be associated with if you're a winner, it's Detroit Pistons. Now, I don't know about y'all, but as far as them and that whole area being considered. I mean, you know, when it comes to the Pistons and what they were known for as far as I think it was the automobile industry or something like that, right? And then completely being just thrown to the wayside because there was no need for that anymore as far as it's like something about Detroit and what they was known for, and they was like supplying a lot of it, which is why they was thriving. But then technology advanced or something like that, and so now they're not as thriving because, you know, it's not as coveted anymore. I'll have to find the specifics to get more in detail, but that's essentially what happened to Detroit, right? They were serving something as far as it being a commodity to the world, and then it was no longer a commodity. So now the Detroit Pistons have the public reputation that it has, or Detroit has it. But of course, the Detroit Pistons don't make it any better because, of course, they're losing every game by 120 points. So anyways, Kay Cunningham is one of the few highlights of that team as far as Detroit Pistons. So Drake wanted to shout him out. You know, he's been shouting out a lot of NBA players, except for a certain individual. I wonder why. I wonder when we're going to get the Aubrey versus LeBron beef, just like we had Stephen A versus LeBron, because we already know Drake had a particular track going at LeBron as far as the Irish freestyle. If you don't think that was going at LeBron, just know that this grown man, Aubrey Graham, has a whole tattoo of LeBron on his body, right? And it's LeBron in an Irish uniform. Why do I know that? Because it's my job to know that. So now you got to know it too. So with that being said, that specific leak track as far as Shopping Spree went viral because of the line Kay Cunningham left his Crocs and I had a lovemaking session to you in them. Now, that is why we are not getting any introspective bars in hip hop. How did this man put out Waiting to Excel? Why did he put out Cheerios? Well, allegedly, as far as the leak pack. And the thing that blew up was the Kay Cunningham Crocs bar in Bal Harbor. Because in my opinion, Waiting to Excel and Cheerios are phenomenal tracks. And here comes Bal Harbor that's not even a complete track. I think he's literally doing a reference version for like 30 seconds. And that's the thing that blows up because of the Kay Cunningham Crocs bar, right? And people wonder why people don't put effort in the hip hop bars anymore. So anyways, as far as the most popular line, that is by far the most popular as far as the leak pack is him talking about him sleeping in the Pistons locker room, right? And nobody knows why he's sleeping in the Pistons locker room. Like I just said, I went on my whole spiel about Detroit in their industry as far as, actually, let's look that up right now because I do believe that's what happened as far as economy. Let's just type that in, see what pops up. So essentially, what I was basically detailing, I'm trying to see if I can get in specifics because I believe I'm on the nose with that one. I just don't know the actual specifics as far as what happened to Detroit in their economy. We're gonna find this. Give me 1 second. All right. Okay. So Detroit, right? Oh, they're talking about the Pistons. Okay, I'm not talking about the Pistons. That's phenomenal. We're gonna find this. Give me 1 second because this is actually pretty pivotal to what I'm about to say. Because as far as Drake and associating himself to Detroit, I don't think it's the greatest move. Let me see. Doing research on the spot, you gotta love it. So getting back to what I was saying, right? This leak pack, if it doesn't see DSPs, just know it's gonna be taken down if you ever try to post it. And ultimately, these leaks are just proof that Drake still has a lot of heat in the tuck as Waiting to Exhale and Cheerios is just phenomenal, right? This particular track, as far as Shopping Spree, aka Bal Harbor, is solid, but the only pivotal thing from it is the Kay Cunningham bar. Besides that, it's more of him just seemingly trying to find a melody, and it's not even a full track, right? It's more of an idea than an actual. It's barely even a chorus, right? But the vibe and the beat is another thing I want to get into. Push-Ups, the OG version, utilized this beat perfectly. It was a masterclass on how to sample the Get Money beat, right? And for that to be used in this, I don't know if I like it as much after hearing the OG version of Push-Ups. Just look up the OG version of Push-Ups and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. That beat, to this day, I think is the better version of what we got. I think if they would have used that beat in the updated lyrics that we have today, it would have had the same effect, if not even a more expansive effect on the masses because of the way that Get Money beat was attached to Drake just going at the entire industry, right? So anyways, when it comes to Detroit, right? Detroit had a decline in 1960s due to deindustrialization. I had to break that down because it was a lot of syllables. So they shedded a lot of jobs like GM moving factories to cheaper regions or automated, right? That's essentially what I was talking about. The 2008 financial crisis, where Detroit's population dropped from 1.8 million in the 1950s to under to under 700,000 with high employment, right? And poverty being one of the main reasons. So Detroit, the whole, region of Detroit filed for bankruptcy in 2013 with 18 billion in debt. So when I tell you about the economy and how Detroit is looked at in today's age, just know they did have a claim to fame as far as the auto industry, but it went under when a lot of companies like GM started to shed jobs. And then, of course, when the financial crisis came about in 2008, the population started to dwindle because of the high unemployment and poverty, right? So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to Detroit and just its attachment to losing, right? So going back to my main point, this track blowing up out of the leak pack is criminal because Waiting to Exhale and Cheerios is a phenomenal, complete track. Bal Harbor is literally him trying to find a melody and using a beat that he already utilized perfectly in the OG version of Push-Ups. So that's why I say it like that. But the main thing is that you should know that Drake is consistently playing in UMG's face by allegedly releasing these leaked tracks that's essentially from the For All the Dogs era. But the main thing when it comes to Drake is him still being the GOAT of hip hop, as if you don't know, he actually passed the Beatles as far as the most consecutive weeks on the charts, right? So I'm seeing if I can find it. So when it comes to Drake, I think it was, so Drake surpassed the Beatles for the most cumulative weeks on Billboard 200 charts. So
Sounds like, damn, look at the state of hip hop. Like, what's going on?
when we talk about the state of hip hop and why we discuss Drake so much, that's why. If y'all hated him like y'all say you do, right? He wouldn't be having the 5th most played album in the world as far as some sexy songs for you. He wouldn't have the 3rd most popular track in the world as far as Nokia, right? He wouldn't have 4 tracks literally charting currently on Billboard as far as Somebody Love Me being the 64th most played track. I got that mixed up. Give Me a Hug being the 62nd most played track, right? Somebody Loves Me being the 64th most played track. And then Die Trying, which I think is one of the more phenomenal tracks that Drake has ever put out. I know that's crazy to say, but as far as experimental lane and it working, it doesn't always work. As a Drake fan, I know when he experiments, and let's just say it doesn't always work out. Just listen to Me Padre to find out how bad it could go as far as him experimenting. So when he does experiment and finds like a pop anthem as far as Die Trying that he allegedly was trying to get Justin Bieber on, right? It's just the ultimate hit. And I think if Justin Bieber was on Die Trying, it would have went up way higher on the charts. But of course, they had Party Next Door and Yebba to compliment Drake on this track, Die Trying. Now, with that being said, I just wanted to let y'all know that Drake is still doing phenomenal on the charts. And to people saying that it's the end of Drake, and obviously I said that he's never going to reach the prime that he was in when he dropped Views, which I still think is the case, because if he's going to keep beefing with UMG like he is, just know he's never going to reach those heights of a 800,000 plus first week sales like he had with Views, where it was almost at 1 million, right? From there, it's been not like a downward spiral, but it's been a downward trajectory slowly as far as the heights of Views. And with him beefing with his label, let's just say that he's never going to reach those heights again. But he's still one of the most prominent acts in the world. So it's almost like LeBron going from what he was doing in 2018 to now. He's still one of the most prominent figures in his sport. He's just not at the top of his game. So with that being said, click my link tree in my bio. Let me know on one of my social medias. What do you think about all of the leaked tracks from Drake as far as Waiting to Exhale, as far as Cheerios, as far as Bal Harbor? What was your favorite leaked track? And ultimately, what was your favorite line from this whole leak pack, allegedly, from Drake's camp?